So, I love Daybreak. Maybe a little too much to most. In case you don't know, Daybreak is this tiny Roblox game that has taken over my life. It averages about 500 people per day and never exceeds 1K. I wasn't kidding when I said small. Now, what is it? Exactly, if I have to explain the game, it's basically Roblox Dead by Daylight, but with lore and gay people. And no, I'm not kidding about gay people, it is the majority here. What is Daybreak Ramble aside? Let's get to the meat of this video, which is about the survivors, and the stinky killer, from the chapter Through the Rift. Through the Rift was the 14th chapter of Daybreak that brought 2 survivors and 1 killer into the Mist. Which, the Mist is the entity of sorts that brings the characters into the game. The Mist will be mentioned a lot here because the Mist is kind of the center of this chapter. Those characters being Sanjana Dewan, Kelvin Mars, and the Watcher, also known as Alexi. The lore behind this chapter is Sanjana and Kelvin met through a hacking institute, then both got caught by the police, and were given the option to go to jail or work at an agency that is studying the Mist. Both decided the agency would be the best option. Later, Kelvin gets taken because he's working late and alone that night. The next day, she, Sanjana, finds footage of Kelvin being taken and decides to hop through in an attempt to save him. Now with the backstory out of the way, I want to talk about the point of this video, Kelvin and Sanjana, and how they came from very different lives, but still became a family. I want to put a note here, Sanjana's family had a lot of financial issues versus Kelvin's, who were well off, but still Kelvin ran away, even though he had a good life. We will talk about why he ended up running away in one of the memories, by the way. I feel like a lot of people think of Sanjana as like a bully to Kelvin, which, to be fair, I did too at first, but that's not really the case. She's tough on him because she cares about him. It reminds me of my family in that aspect. We tease each other, but it's always trying to be in good faith. With that, I want to look at the textual evidence we have of these two in their lore so far, and how they are literally the trope of found family, even though, again, their lives were so different growing up. So, let's start with Kelvin, because he's easier. An obvious one is when Kelvin is reviving Sanjana. The interaction literally goes like, Kelvin says, "Hi mom." Sanjana replies, "I told you to stop calling me that. It's weird. You're a grown man." Kelvin replies, "Sorry mom." Again, this is an obvious one. I doubt you call someone mom if you didn't care about them deeply, or saw them as that kind of a figure. However, one of my favorite memories in all of Daybreak involves these two. It's Kelvin's 6th memory, titled Hurt. Before I discuss this memory, quick content warning. This memory does mention blood and acts of terrorism, so if anyone's uncomfortable with that, please skip to the timestamp on screen. A little background. Watcher/Alexi always hid in the shadows and craved attention from others, so he set a bomb during one of Sanjana and Kelvin's missions. In Watcher's lore, it states, he never meant for things to go the way they did. It was supposed to be a controlled explosion. Instead, he did something much worse. Far too big to comprehend. Hundreds of people died. With that slight background out of the way, let's explain what exactly happened in this memory. So, Kelvin talks about how he thought he heard the start of the explosion before it happens, while Sanjana is yelling something over their intercoms. Kelvin turns the corner and freezes. The memory says, Sanjana's body was nothing but a heap on the ground, one of her arms covering her stomach as blood trickled out. It wasn't clear to him what happened, but he knew it wasn't good. This isn't that relevant, but Kelvin does see Watcher's logo, which is a pair of eyes, on the wall behind Sanjana. Kiat, who's another worker, if not the leader of the Mist agency, runs to Sanjana asking her what happened. Sanjana can barely speak because she was presumably crushed from the explosion. Kiat tells them that they're returning to HQ, but Kelvin doesn't move. Kiat asks if he's coming, which he says in a second. One of the reasons I adore this memory is this paragraph. His brain burned with the picture of Sanjana staring at him, blood dripping down her face, covered in soot and grime. Her eyes didn't have that spark to them. She looked defeated. He'd never seen that before, not from her. Now, this might just seem like, oh, well, they're coworkers, and that's traumatic to see. And I agree. However, the thing is, Kelvin ran away from home, meaning he doesn't really have a family anymore. So seeing someone you really look up to and considering them a parental figure on the ground, bleeding and defeated, which is unlike them, must have been a terrifying sight to see. So, with the evidence on Kelvin's side, let's talk about Sanjana and how she does care for him, even if it doesn't seem like it. I'm gonna start with a memory this time, which this memory made me giggle so much when I first read it. It is Sanjana's third memory, titled Laughter. So, the memory opens up with Kelvin being shocked she's never watched his favorite movie, which Sanjana's trying to do her job, as Kelvin is whining for her to watch this movie. Sanjana's slightly peeved at how childish she's being, but Kelvin is so desperate to watch this movie, saying they could use the work equipment to watch it, which Sanjana replies they should not do that because it's work equipment. Finally, Kelvin says we could put it on the TV and the couch. Now, in Sanjana's head, she thinks, his face was so serious about something so dumb. It was endearing, in a stupid way. Like when a dog brings you a toy and wants you to throw it, but won't let you take it. Somehow, she caves, and they put it on the TV. While the movie is going, Kelvin is kind of talking out loud. Suddenly, he says this, which sparks a conversation. Can I tell you something? Sanjana exhaled, nodding slowly. What is it? I'm gay. What? She cocked her head, eyeing him, despite the fact his eyes were glued to the screen. I've never told anyone that before, not even my parents. His voice was so quiet, which was rare for his loudmouth self. I don't know. I don't care, Sanjana said honestly, moving her hand to gently stroke his head. Is that supposed to change how I view you? Maybe, Kelvin shrugged. When I told my parents I was bi, I'm not your parents, she reminded him. She was beginning to understand him a little more. It was so simple, yet she hadn't figured it out until now. You're my friend, Kel. That's it. I don't care what you are. Thanks. Before I continue with the best part of the memory, I want to say that although this doesn't seem like a big deal that he's gay, this was the reason Kelvin ran away from home. He told his parents he was bi, which isn't true, he's gay. But his parents said it was fine to experiment, but he had to end up with a girl, which he knew he would never want as a gay man. So even though this seems like a small thing, to Kelvin, this is crazy. In the quote, his voice was quiet, which is rare for his loudmouth self, explains this well, especially after Sanjana asks if it was supposed to change her view on him. Which Kelvin doesn't know because he never fully came out to his parents. The reaction was just, end up with a woman after you're done. So Sanjana comforting him, saying she doesn't care, he is her friend, so doesn't matter, must have been really validating for Kelvin. I'm gonna continue this memory, but it's not important to the story. It just makes me laugh every time. You can skip to this timestamp if you don't care. After Kelvin thanks her, the memory continues with, she could tell he was smiling. So you're a lesbian, right? Kelvin! Her hand moved over from gently stroking his hair to be brought up and smacked him on the upside of the head. Just shut up and watch the movie. He laughed, looking up at her, just in time to catch her small smile with his face. The minute their eyes met, she quickly realized one thing. He was never going to forget the time he made her smile. Oh my god! Oh, I love this memory. Not only is it funny to think about how heartfelt conversation turned to asking about Sanjana's identity, but this memory is just wholesome. So I have supporting parents, which is wonderful, and I'm so lucky I can be myself without judgment. However, I can't imagine hearing your family say you aren't valid because you have to be straight, knowing you'll never be that way, and hiding your true self to conform. But the person he considered the closest thing to a mother tells him she doesn't care. Whatever gender he likes, he's still Kelvin to her. Another thing that shows Sanjana deeply cares for Kelvin is when she's reviving Arlo. Not Kelvin, but Kelvin's boyfriend. The interaction goes like this. So, you're the little nurse that's been occupying his mind. I'm gonna tell you once, be nice to him. And Arlo replies, got it. I think this is really sweet. Everyone in the Mist explains Sanjana is cold, but she isn't always cold-hearted, especially when it comes to her loved ones. Maybe some see her teasing as rude, but it's coming from a place of love. Maybe even trying to push the person to do better in a motherly way. So, that wraps up the first episode of Special Interest Rambles. I hope you enjoyed it. And please check out Daybreak. The community is great, and if you're an artist, you'll fit right in. The Daybreak Twitter community has insanely talented artists. Just look it up. Also, I will link all the references I used below from the wiki if you want to read them yourself. Or another characters entirely. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Bye now!